Barbados Prime Minister Mia Motley says there could be a chartered flight between Bridgetown and at least one African nation in the coming months. During a press conference on the first ever Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum held in Barbados, the host Prime Minister said while she could not say when the chartered flights would start, action was being taken to make it happen. Motley said officials from the Ministry of Tourism and International Transport had met with representatives of other countries as well as the African Export-Import Bank during the conference, and they had started serious conversations. She said they were trying to see how to create a framework that would allow for chartered first before regular flights can be scheduled.
Barbados has indicated that we are prepared to work with one or two African countries to be able to do the co-marketing because you have to be able to sustain the traffic. And we hope that we can look at anchoring maybe a city out of North America as well to help with the traffic load. The second component, apart from the multi-destination trip, would be to allow us to carry cargo. If we can put stuff in the belly of the plane, it can then help reduce the cost of air traffic between our two countries, our two regions, sorry. So I'm hopeful that within a few months we can make a reality of this pipe dream.
Now, the Prime Minister was adamant that it was time to create a direct Airlink so that people from Africa and the Caribbean did not need transit visas because they were forced to go through Europe or North America to visit each other's countries. In her words, it is time to cut out the middle leg.
A Kenyan, a South African, a Ghanaian, a Rwandan, coming to Barbados, coming to St. Kitts, coming to Grenada, you've got to go via London or New York or Miami or Frankfurt or Amsterdam. That's wrong. And if we have not just a sense of history, but an appreciation for the economic activity that it will unlock, then I think that the case will be well made. But like with any child, you must creep before you walk. And like with new routes, we need to support it for the first year or two until it can sustain itself.
Well, switching gears now, it is September, which means it's National Preparedness Month. In 2021, the Red Cross says more than 40% of Americans were living in a country struck by a disaster. That's why the organization is urging everyone to make a safety plan now. Now, it's especially important as here in the Caribbean, as we are now in peak hurricane season. Our One Caribbean News' Emily Matson has what you need in order to be prepared.
Deadly flooding, fast-moving wildfires, and heat waves across the U.S. The past year, millions of Americans have been affected by climate-related disasters.
It can happen to anybody at any time, which makes preparedness all that more important.
The Red Cross says being prepared starts with having a plan.
To know if something does happen, where can you turn for help? What should you do if an evacuation order is issued? And how are you going to get the most up-to-date information?
Have a safety kit. Put necessities in there. Things like bottled water, non-perishable foods, a first aid kit, blankets and ponchos, a flashlight, things to keep children engaged during a disaster, and have 3 ways to receive warnings and emergency information. That can be apps on your phone, and have a battery-operated weather radio.
Having the ability to get those warnings as quickly as possible and as many different variations of ways to get those warnings is going to be really pivotal.
Families should involve children in the planning so that if there is an emergency, they'll know what to expect.
Talk to them about and let them hear the sound of a fire alarm. Let them know what the sound is going to be like if an emergency alert system goes off on your phone.
Being prepared starts now, before an emergency strikes. Emily Matson, One Caribbean News.
Now, the Red Cross says to help your community be ready for an emergency, consider volunteering or learning life-saving skills. You can learn more at redcross.org. Well, meantime, a new era is about to begin in the United Kingdom. On Tuesday, Liz Truss becomes the UK's next Prime Minister. Liz, who will also be the leader of the country's Conservative Party, beat her challenger by more than 20,000 votes after securing the win. Truss has a few comments for the man she's succeeding, Boris Johnson. She congratulated former Prime Minister Johnson for numerous actions, including the rollout of the COVID vaccine and standing up to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Johnson resigned from office in July after scandals hurt his administration. Political analysts say Truss has plenty of challenges ahead, though. The UK is dealing with the cost of living crisis and the war in Europe. In the meantime, kids are heading back to the classroom, but this year some students are getting more sleep. In California, it's the first time the state is requiring later school start times. As Nichelle Medina reports, experts say the initiative should go national.
13-year-old Robert Greenway is enjoying a new routine before school, one that includes more sleep.
Last school year, it was more like get up, rush, 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 like you're tired.
A first-of-its-kind law requires all high schools in the state to start no earlier than 8:30 and an 8 a.m. or later start for middle schools to help students get much-needed sleep.
There's zombies in the morning, and then it's very stressful to try to get them up.
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends teens get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Studies show nearly 70% don't get that, increasing their risk of depression, lower grades, obesity, and suicidal thoughts.
Teenagers have a huge sleep crisis.
Dr. Sachin Panda of the Salk Institute in San Diego is a leading researcher in circadian rhythm science. His research shows a later start time has a big impact in the classroom.
They actually learn better, so their grades improved by 4.5%. The tardiness also went down, and overall teens actually felt much better about themselves.
Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey are also considering later school start times. Only about 20% of U.S. high schools start at or after 8:30 a.m., the time the AAP recommends.
How's it going? So far, so good?
Yeah, definitely. I focused like a lot more, and I just felt more productive.
An extra 30 minutes of sleep, helping Robert start the new school year off on the right foot. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, San Diego.
Now, critics of later school start times say the change could hit school districts with administrative and operational pressures, make extracurricular activities harder to schedule, and disrupt the schedules of working parents.